So, you join us on a magnificent upper Severn where I hope to be covering all things float fishing. I'm going to go in depth a little bit more on presentations and where I'd fish certain styles. A little bit more finesse. I've done a lot of barbel fishing on the float. So scaling things down. I am going to have a heavy setup just in case. But that is a very nice start. Mr. Chub on a piece of corn. Said to Ty we're going to have a go for a bigger fish first, and we've got one. Wicked. Well, switch to the maggot to see if there's any small fish about. It feels very much like we've got another nice chub. Just fishing a sort of finesse presentation, nice soft float rod. I'm actually fishing the 4 pound 4 ounce glide mainline, so it's nice and sensitive. 1.6 gram stick, and instead of my usual bulk, I'm actually fishing it strung out. And that is a nice fish. An absolute game changer is the wading net. I have got a fish already in there, so just being careful, but fish number 2. Bigger one that time. So I've just had a couple of chub on the, like I was talking on a finesse setup. So that's that rod with a 1.6 gram glide stick. And normally, or for the last few years, for ease, I've been guilty of ignoring my traditional sort of stick float fishing. And then this year, with the rivers being so low and clear, I've had to go back to that little bit of finesse. So fishing strung out, lying the rigs out, no Olivet, and it's done me great. Like, don't get me wrong, there was always a place for the Olivet. There's a swim later that we're going to go to in the quick water. Cheeky chubs trying to escape. In the quick water where we'll be going through on the pin, holding it back on the Olivet, so that's perfect for that. But this sort of swim, it doesn't need it because there's hardly any flow. Those fish are going to be coming up and down in the layers, just keeping that food going in. And I'll be basically switching. Managed to get that tangled, I'll sort it in a minute. Between the stick and the waggler. So 2 different presentations, both sort of finesse. This one will fish more on the fall, so when they come onto those maggots, we've probably all seen chub where they come up in the water and they intercept all the bait. Perfect for this, you can put it right at them. Same as the stick really. That's more running down, even though I've got it strung out, for dragging along the bottom. And it just proves like changing different presentations can keep fish coming. So, a little touch onto the feed. And always important to keep mending your line. A little touch on the feed is I am feeding downstream, and it makes everything so much easier for you because you can cast in, your float's coming around in the flow, and you can feed directly over your rig as it's going through. That makes a difference. So you want, when you're getting them coming and competing on the maggot or the pellet, or like as you've seen, I've fished the corn to pick out a couple of bigger fish. There we go, that's on the corn again. On the first run down on the waggler, I just concentrate, that feels half decent, that does. And I've forgot what to say, I'm trying to concentrate. But yes, feeding downstream, you want to feed on top of your rig, and it just makes everything that little bit easier. As you can see, that changed to the waggler. I just thought that on that last one, I caught him up the top of the swim. And as a rule, if that's happening, they're coming and taking the maggots on. So that, like I say, that change in presentation, first run down and another fish. There's a lot of dace along here. So what I'm doing, I'm feeding the majority maggots. I am feeding 4mm pellet, and I'm also flicking a few pieces of corn. And basically the corn, I'm feeding that in the tree, feeding the corn, so I've got a selective hook bait to pick out the bigger fish in amongst all the small fish. The temperatures are cooling, but they haven't gone past knocking the small fish off yet. So I just want a bigger bait to select them things. As much as I will like to catch a few dace in a little bit. But who can grumble? Look at them, Welsh. Barely fished for chub. Wicked. Right, those are nicely retained. We've carried on fishing, but the swim's quietened off. We've had those 3 nice chub. Started having a few bits, but always a sign that the bigger chub, they've probably just drifted back under that tree. It is low and clear still. So we're going to rest this peg, go and try the one above, and I'm going to pop these back. This one was the biggest of the 3. Very nice fish, actually. I'll just... There you go. Lovely River Severn chub. Really well rested. Been juggling him for how long? Smallest one. Absolutely lovely fish. Off to the next peg. Right, so we've moved swim. Just going to come and give this quick water a bit of a go. It is very shallow, but it is, or has been, a long summer. I'm hopeful there should be a fish. So, talking of different setups, much more aggressive in this because of the quick water. So I've got a 4-gram missile on. I'm fishing it on the pin, so you can just ease it through the peg. What I was touching on earlier is like with the different setups for different situations, and this lends itself perfectly to the Olivet. So on the other swim I was fishing with the sort of finesse. Here, because you've got the turbulent water, you can get away with that bulk down. Hopefully there's a fish or two. What is we? Surprised we haven't seen any dace yet. But a nice little chub. Right, we're back from a little explore from that top swim in the quick water. Couple of small chub, but that was it. Loads of minnow on the bottom end of it. This is obviously rested, and as you can see, I've moved down 25 yards, just closer to the snag. I've been feeding it for sort of 15 minutes while we had a bit of something to eat. Hoping just to nick 1 or 2 more fish off that main feature. So I'm gonna have a flick in, lay the rig out as we do, and hopefully something's moved back in. Well, thought that was going to go tight. So you'd think you'd pick them up on the corn as well, wouldn't you? It's not a bad one. Not huge, but crafty little bugger. So I've briefly talked about the different presentations and different setups for different sort of swims. So I'm just going to quickly, just a real brief run through. This is my sort of belt and braces, fast water, big fish sort of setup. So I know I said about finesse up on certain swims, but again, the Olivet in crisp quarter it just keeps everything down where the fish are going to be. So got one of our glide missiles, Olivet. I think that's £8 line. So it's £8 glide line, and I will say you're okay fishing heavier off the pin because it comes off in a straight line. I really don't mind. I'll use my heaviest setup on the pin. As you can see, because there's no spool, it runs off straight. You're never going to get any curl. So when I'm fishing for big fish, as a rule, if I can get away with it, I'll fish the pin. The Omega float rod, again, controls those big fish brilliantly. That's the big fish swim, or the fast water rod. Then we've got the waggler setup. So this is for when the fish start coming onto the maggot quite shallow. So as you can see, just strung out, I've got a number 6, a number 6 and a number 6 and a one number 8 dropper. And then I've got 3BB around one of our quills, and I'm just using the quill as the waggler. They run through actually really good, really nice. Very sensitive, so when you're smaller fish fishing, when you're getting dace come shallow, a great sort of setup. One of the Dreamcast reels, and that's got the £6 glide, so a little bit more scale down, a little bit of finesse again. With the water being as clear as it is and as low as it's been, we've had a real hot summer. It definitely makes a difference. And then onto my real bit of a finesse sort of setup. I've got the 4.4 glide mainline, which I think it's 0.18. So really easy to cast, really easy to control. 0.12 bottom of the down to a size 18, and then again just stringing them out. So when you're casting that rig in, it's a 1.6 gram glide stick. I'm lying the whole rig out, so there's no plop off the Olivet. Sometimes when it's really shallow, the fish are coming up onto the feed, and you'll nick one quick, and then they'll go back to where they live. But if you can just keep feathering that rig above them and then run it down to them, as I touched on earlier, feeding down almost out the peg so you're not on top of the fish, it allows you to run down to the fish without spooking them too much, and then hopefully have a few more. But yep, those are the 3 sort of setups that I've gone with. They definitely sort of having the options keep more fish coming, whether that be big or small, but they're the 3 setups. Ah, everything gone. Thought the minnows went off. Last run then. Chub. There's your fish. It's raining. Is it time to go home, Ty? So that's the final fish. As you can see, the weather has took a turn, and as Ty keeps reminding me, cameras don't like rain. So we're going to call it. Unfortunately, that barbel got away, or I think it was a barbel. It definitely felt like one, but that felt like it was bigger. Tried to do me in every bush, but I'm happy with that. Quick run through all the different presentations and where I'd use them. You can put lovely fish like that on the bank. That is one nice chub to finish on. Mega.